Welcome to the Core Concepts Lectures. This is sponsored by One Community, the Institute of Applied Metaphysics, and the Church of Revelation. We also have a program called IAM-WELL that we are working on, and we tout it as a sponsor also. This is a show where people come and tell us what they believe, why they believe it, and what they're doing about it. And most of these are religious and spiritual leaders. And on occasion we've had some come from a scientific angle. And today is something special. Rhonda is well known in the Memphis area as a licensed counselor, but nationally she's better known as a medium. And she's also been delving into quantum physics and a wide range of subjects. So we welcome Rhonda to the show today.
Thank you for coming. I think this got announced so late that I was wondering, I said, I just need 3 people in the audience to fill me questions and I'll be great. Well, first of all, thank you very much for even coming today. And I'm going to talk about something that's very dear to my heart. And before I do that, I'd just like to tell you why I'm sitting here and why I'm going to be talking about what I'm talking about. I am a licensed clinical social worker, and I've been in private practice for over 10 years. And up until about 5 or 6 years ago, I really didn't understand energy, and I certainly didn't think that I would ever be sitting in a seat calling myself a psychic medium. In fact, I was really on the other side, and I could stand up in front of a group of 1,000 people and talk about post-traumatic stress statistics, you know, but now I'm standing up in front of groups of people talking about heaven and about the energy in the body. Well, my analytical side got the best of me when I came into these abilities about 5 years ago, and I wanted to understand, how is this happening? How is it that I'm able to speak to people in heaven, and what are they made of, and how does the information come in? And I just started training with everybody I can find, including some of the best mediums around the world, but that wasn't enough because I wanted to understand it even deeper. And so at that point I started studying with Native American medicine folks. I started with the Kiros in Peru and some of the Kahunas in Hawaii. And I wanted to understand their perspective of energy and what they thought that was. So it led me to a profound understanding of quantum physics. And I will tell you this right now, that I had to get a tutor to keep my scholarship in college in science. And for me to sit here and talk to you about quantum physics is just, you know, this universe kind of laughing, you know, ha ha, Rhonda. So what I'd like to do is I want to take the woo-woo out of what I'm doing, because there's so much fear out there that this is the devil, that it's evil. And I even actually have a handout at the beginning of my galleries where I stand up and it says, "This is not a seance, the lights are on." You know, so we really need to move out of that kind of thinking. Did you have a question?
No,
oh, okay.
I'm just agreeing.
Okay, agreeing. Okay. And so what I'd like to do is I'd just like to talk about quantum physics for just a moment, and I'd like to talk to you about how quantum physics and energy works with when I do medium work, and then also when I see around the energy of people's bodies, and really what I've learned about this so far. What I will say to you is this. The first thing is that quantum physics is the study of subtle energy. It's energy that we cannot see. And we are in the age of it right now. I mean, scientists are discovering things that are just completely blowing the norms of what they know of scientific theory out of the water. One of the things that they have discovered is that, and I teach this to all my students when they first come into the door, is that we are in, all around us, you think this is air. This is the example I give. This is air. It looks like air, right? It looks like air. But it's actually full of so much amazing energy that scientists are trying to study it to see if they can harness it to actually put it to skyrocket spaceships, you know. So this is not air, but we can't see it, but they know it's there. So there's everything that we know that in terms of science, is now being redefined. What's even more important about this concept of quantum physics is, as they were studying it, they discovered that when there was direct human observation of this energy, the energy began to coalesce. Meaning that with observation and our viewing of it, we actually moved matter. That is powerful. And the reason why I say that is because I'm going to be talking about intentions, but I'm going to be talking about the power of intentions, and we're going to bring it in with this energy, okay? So as a psychic medium, what I do is when people are in heaven and they speak to me, we have a team of helpers over there, believe it or not. Every evidentiary medium does. So there is actually a whole team of helpers over there that's regulating energetic waves. Because the way that this information comes through is through energetic waves, just like radio waves. And they are picked up by chakras in the body. Are most of you familiar with what the chakras are? Okay, raise your hand just so I have an idea. Okay, a few of you don't. And I'll go ahead and put it for the tape. But chakras are actually vortexes of spinning energy through the body and actually above the body and below the body. And they are spinning wheels of light. This is the Sanskrit word for them. But what they really are they're little vortexes of energy, like little radio receivers, and they actually take information in, they also take information out, okay? And so what happens is that people who have crossed over are actually regulating these energy waves, beaming them through intention, because we can move energy with our minds and our thought. And they're actually being picked up by my radio receivers in my body, and I'm able to interpret what's being said or shown to me. Now, the other thing is that each of these chakras are responsible for very specific information. It's very fine-tuned system. Okay, we do have divine intelligence, and it's intelligent. And with that, what we have discovered is that when we concentrate on these different areas of the body, we can actually receive more of that information. And we can also receive more of that information when we breathe in, because the information is coming through the air. So if I go, I'm actually breathing information in that comes to me. So if you've ever seen psychics such as John Edwards, Sylvia Brown, some of the Von Prague, these are very famous mediums. If you watch them, you'll see them suddenly breathe into their bodies, because what they're doing is they're actually pulling energetic waves down into their bodies and into their chakras. Okay, so the crown chakra, which is above the head, is often colored white, a little bit of lavender, and it is responsible for an all-knowing, meaning this is where guides and helpers, and we do have them, actually enter information into this chakra, and this is when you just simply know something. You don't sense it, you don't feel it, you don't see it, you don't hear it, but you know it. Okay, this is the crown chakra. The third eye, which is located here, is purple or indigo, and this is the radio receiver for vision. We actually have a screen. The pituitary and the pineal gland work together, and we have a screen inside, directly here, that actually has receptor sites like an eyeball does. It has a little bit of crystallization, and autopsies show there's actually a little bit of water. So it's like a little reflective pool. So they're actually beaming this energy in, and we're able to see it on a little screen. Okay, so this is where vision comes from. And then the throat chakra is here, and this is responsible for hearing. It actually is from about here up to about here. So when I'm receiving this information, it is coming in right here into this area of my body. Okay, also, well, I will say, I'm going to show you where the chakras are. It comes in other ways, and I'll go over that in a minute. But this is, I just want you to get a handle on where the information in your radio receivers are and what they do. Now, the next one is the heart chakra, and this is just responsible for the emotions of love, gratitude, compassion, and forgiveness. And I want to say to you that these are what I call God energies, meaning that these vibrate so high that they have to have a separate chakra just for those emotions alone. And you all often will see me, when I sign off on things, I always go, Rhonda Manning, psychic medium, love, compassion, forgiveness, gratitude. Okay? Those are the God energies, and they vibrate highly. And when I say they vibrate highly, I can actually see them. I can see the auras around people when I'm sitting here giving a reading to somebody, not just talking to heaven, but when I'm giving life path readings, I'm able to see energetic imprints of all who you are, everything you've been, and everything that you will be. Okay? And I see whether or not you're operating in love, gratitude, compassion because of the vibrational frequency and the color. Okay? So this is a very important piece right here. Also, the heart chakra is very important in the sense that we have portals throughout the universe, around us. Everything is in torus form, and scientists is beginning to learn that as well. We are a walking torus, and we activate this torus through the heart chamber. Okay? And scientists are going to get turned on to this more and more and more. And we're going to see what incredible things will happen when we understand how to focus that energy through our heart chamber. I actually tell a lot of my students that we actually have a way to access space-time dimension right here within our bodies. When I look at you as a crystalline being with rainbow colors, and I also hear sound emanating from you. But right in the center, I see a black hole, because that's actually a portal. Okay? but we access it so many ways, but we cannot access it without love, gratitude, compassion, and forgiveness, that is, okay? So moving down, now we have the power chakra, which it's located in various places in different literature, but basically it's in the tummy area. And this is responsible for the first feelings of gut feelings like, something's wrong, this person feels good to me, okay? Then the next chakra is the sacral, which is orange, and it's a little bit below. And this is responsible for even a fine-tuning of that emotion, like fear, sadness, danger, okay? Now pay attention, we have just done 3 separate portals or vortexes for emotion. We are here trying to regulate our emotions on this planet such that we actually have to have 3 different energy receptor sites to handle all the emotions. What does that tell you? We are here to learn how to manage that. Okay, so the more higher frequency emotions go through the heart, then it pulls it down, and then it pulls it down even further. Okay, they even have to have it moving down chakras to reduce the energy of it. Okay, then the last chakra is called the root chakra, and these are the primaries. There are many more, but these are the ones we primarily use. And it's red, and it's right at the pelvic floor or at the scrotum where the male, when it concerns the male. And this is where we are grounded to our root energy, to Mother Earth. Mother Earth is a live being, and we are also in the age of science. One of the best books I can recommend to you is a book by Dr. Ober, and it is called Earthing, and they have actually proven that we have to be plugged into the ground, that we are not only a physical being, but we are an electrical being. And some of these disorders that medicine can't quite get a hold of, they're discovering, alas, if these people actually get outside, put their feet on the ground, spend some time outdoors, their symptoms alleviate. So we have more receptor sites in our feet than any part of our body. That's because that's how we plug in. Scientists knew this many, many years ago. It's called the Schumann wave. It's a heartbeat that's coming from Mother Earth. And if they do not replicate it upon the spacecraft, the astronauts become disoriented. We have to be plugged in. We have to be plugged in. So these are the main chakras. But there's more to you energetically than that. There's rings that go around your body. They rotate this way, they rotate this way. And the 4 that I would like to pay attention to is really the mental body, the spiritual body, the emotional body, and the physical body. And why? Why do I want to focus on that? Because this is how we manifest. You know, we've all heard of The Secret. Well, they got part of it right, but they didn't really understand how the energetic body works, and they really got part of it right, truly. So I'd like to explain how these bodies work with the power of manifestation. First of all, when I'm looking at you energetically, I'm not only looking at your chakras and your energetic field around you, because your chakras run through your body and then it rotates around you. So I certainly see the mixture of the colors and what you primarily operate at in the moment anyway, because you know it's what you've done for the day. If you've had read a spiritual Bible, then I'm going to see a lot of white light around you. Okay, if you actually happen to be painting that day, which is a sacral orange for sexuality and creativity, then I'm going to see a lot of orange around you. So yes, the auric field does exist with your chakras all together, of course, but you also have rings around your body as well. And this is where I see the emotional body, the spiritual body, the mental body, and the physical body. And why is that important? Because they contain energy. Meaning that I can sit here and tell you what it is that you think, and if you're operating in high thinking ability, just by looking at your mental body around you. And a lot of times what I will see is a lot of gray or darkness, and usually that is a person that operates in a lot of negativity. Or perhaps they're having a bad day and operating in a lot of negativity, you know. But so you have to understand that you have to regulate that body as well. If you want to be a high powerful manifester, which means to manifest means to be able to concentrate on the energy and know where it goes and send it, then you need to be able to understand where your bodies are and what they are. So because our thinking is energy, it has its own house or body around it. Now the other thing is the physical body is like what I call a Peter Pan body, meaning that you can almost take it out like this, and it's an exact replication of your physical body. So if you're short, it's going to be short. I call it the Peter Pan shadow. And what happens with the physical body is that is the first place that anything physical occurs, meaning that it's going to show up in the physical body first. So when I'm actually given a reading and I can see illnesses in the body, I will see it in the actual physical energetic body. And I see it as distortion of color, because everything operates according to a system of colors. So when I see a certain color that should be there and it's distorted, I automatically know that there's an illness in the body. Sometimes if it's not illness, it's also about to be illness, or it's strong emotion in the body that's about to turn into illness. Emotions turn into illness. Okay? So we have to be able to focus on our emotions and where we are with them in order to prevent our illnesses in our physical bodies. Now, the other thing that you might want to look at too is also the spiritual body, in the sense that the spiritual body is our faith. It's our belief in God, or whatever we think God is, or a higher power. It's our faith. And if we don't have faith, then we're not going to get very far with any sort of manifestation, okay? Because we have to be working all those bodies in order to truly manifest. So you have to believe, a lot of times what I say is, do you believe that the universe is working for you, or do you believe that the universe is working against you? And that is major. That is a very, very important question to ask yourself, because that's going to make all the difference in that body. Now, the other body is actually, let's see, we got the mental, we got the spiritual, did we get the physical? Okay, did I miss one? Emotional, thank you, the emotional body. Now, the emotional body is where we put all our emotions. Every single bit of emotion, not only does it go through these chakras right here, but then again, it's housed in another body around us. And I can tell if you're angry, if you're upset, what primary dominant emotion you're operating in the moment, and pretty much most of the time, just by looking at your emotional body. Okay. Now, how do these emotional bodies go into manifestation? Okay, well, the first thing is that when you have to actually think about what it is that you want. You have to think about it. I want to have a book out. And this is what I want, and I actually am wanting to have a book out. So, and Mr. Renford knows this. He's working with me on this right now. So that's my thought. I want a book. That is my thought. Okay, so the minute that I think about that and concentrate on that, what am I revving up? I'm revving up my mental body. I'm using the energy in my mental body. Okay, the minute that I can actually see that book, and I go, wow, I can see it. Okay, I actually see someone handing me a contract. Okay, I'm using my physical body of vision. Okay, because that's a physical body. Okay, when we see, that's something tied to the physical body. All right, so I'm visualizing the contract and everything. Okay, now I want to use the emotional body. So I not only see that contract, but I see myself jumping up and down going, yippee! Woo! I got that contract. The minute that I do that, I'm activating and energizing the emotional body. Okay. Now I want to energize the fourth body, which is faith. I believe, I truly believe that I'm going to write that book. And not only that, but I'm going to use gratitude, because remember, those are the highest vibrations in the heart chakra. Thank you, God, for allowing me to write that book. I know it's going to happen. I have so much gratitude for the people in my life who are making this happen for me now. Okay, I give thanks to them. I have so much love in my heart to give to the world. Love, gratitude. Okay, so the more that I'm able to use these high vibrational God energies within the heart chakra, and then also use my bodies in the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual, I have now become an extremely energetic being. And remember, at the beginning, I said when we concentrate on energy, we move it, right? So the minute that I'm energizing all these bodies and some of the God energy emotions within my heart chakra, I can manifest anything. Okay? And the other thing I want you to think about is put a time limit on it. You know, a lot of people just send it out there. Why, we are the manifester, we are actually the manifestors of energy on this planet. Okay? I call people the living masters of energy. That's what we are. That is our role. You know, a lot of people, I've often heard people say, you know, that, you know, humans are an anomaly. I don't know if this is true or not, but I've heard this, where, you know, in the food chain, we're not even supposed to be here. And I'm thinking, but what about the energetic one? You know? We are definitely needed, because we are conduits and we move energy in and around this planet. So the other thing I want to, excuse me, talk about with this is, let me get some water. Well, I'm talking a mile a minute. Should I elicit any questions at this moment? Did I lose anybody here? Okay, all right. All right. I want to also say to you that I believe that Mother Earth is a live being, and I want to talk about the energy with Mother Earth as we understand it. And this is through the teachings of the Kiro Indians as well as the Native American medicine people here. And I want to bring it into quantum physics as well, because they learn the spiritual side of things, but there is a science to the spiritual. And one thing that they taught us is that not only is Mother Earth a live being, but we can actually ask her to help us with energy in and around our bodies. One of the things that I do prior to ever going on stage, if you want to call it stage, in a gallery, which is where I speak to people in heaven, is I pull energy from Mother Earth through the ground. Okay, and I often visualize it as green, and I ask for it. I give gratitude. Every time you use any of these energies in the heart chakra, you have exponentially actually increase the energy that you're using. Thank you, Mother Earth. May I have that energy that comes from the ground. Now, we know from science right now that this energy actually is negatively charged. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm literally pulling energy through my intention, breath, visualization, feeling, thank you. Moving it in, and I bring that through my body, through the feet, and up all the way through my body. The minute that I do that, I have now charged my body with negative energy. Okay? Now, that's not enough, because we are running both negative and positive energies around our body. In fact, they switch it out every 2 hours, and every chakra has a positive and negative charge. This is how movement happens. You have to have opposite. Okay? So if we want to move the energy, we're going to have opposite charges. So the chakras all have very positive and negative charges. So from the sky, we call this Father Sky with Native American medicine. This is positively charged energy. So then many of us in the metaphysical arena have heard, surround yourself with a white light. Okay, that's a wonderful thing. But if you're wanting to balance your energy, you got to have Mother Earth energy. You also have to have Father Sky energy. So this is positively charged energy. So what you do is you can visualize an energy being moving from the top of the sky and just literally moving through the top of your head. This could be silver, it can be gold. And really, I don't want to get caught up too much on the colors, because I think that you need to be open to whatever color comes to you, because sometimes Mother Earth will give you a color to balance your body. Maybe the energy from above will give you a color that will balance your body. Okay? So a lot of times we use in meditations the color green from Mother Earth, the color gold or silver from Father Sky, but I say whatever works for you. It's the intention, because why? You're the mover of energy. So you have all the power in the world. But this concept of us being an energetic being is a very important one, because I always say to people, you need to know what your equipment is. I can't tell you how many times in my classes and lectures I have had more people stop me after galleries where I spoke to heaven or done a lecture where they say, I'm feeling everything. I'm feeling everything. You know, I feel people's emotions. You know, I don't want it. I'm bombarded. Well, I have to say I do understand what that is, okay? But I will say to you that I'm a believer in giving the power back to the person, because we are powerful beings in our own right. And if you just learn your equipment, you'll learn that you can manage this energy any way you want to. So I call these individuals unshielded empaths, meaning they have an empathic ability to pick up on these waves at a very, very high rate. For some reason, some of our receptor sites are a little broader. So the way I relate it is like a radio tower. Some of us have really tall radio towers, and some of us have smaller radio towers, but we all have them. Okay, and for whatever reason, empaths have a high chakra vortex here, and they're just pulling in the waves like this. Okay. Some of us see well, some of us speak well. You know, everybody has different abilities, but these vortexes are very, very high for what I call unshielded empaths. And not only do unshielded empaths have high chakras in the sacral and the power, but they also have an ability to pull energetic waves in just from around them. Okay? A minute ago I had said that energy comes in all sorts of ways, not only through the chakras, but what we know through science is that DNA is actually has light emissions, meaning that we're actually able to pull in energy waves through our very skin. Okay, so have you ever been around somebody and all of a sudden you kind of get goose pimples all over your body, and okay, a lot of times that is energy coming directly into your skin. Okay, so it's biophoton. It's actually through the skin. So you're getting energy this way, you're also getting energy through your skin. Yes, ma'am?
What if you're not around somebody and you get those bumps?
Okay, good question, because usually what happens with that is the third way in which energy that I understand comes into the body, that I know of so far, is through what I call an energetic bolus. And what that means, it literally comes into the back of the head into a huge beam, because we actually have a portal here, an opening right here at the back of our head. In many cultures, they call it the mouth of God. And so people who get the little bumps often are getting a bolus that literally zooms down, goes through the pineal pituitary, and moves down the spinal cord, and it's such a bolus at one time, your body just goes, woo! Does that make sense to you? Okay, so it comes through the skin, comes through the chakras, and they often will use a big bolus this way. And you got to remember, you've got portals all over your body, so it can also come through your hands, through your feet. You know, this is almost a whole lecture in and of itself, energetic anatomy, so I can't really go into it, but I'm covering the basics with that. Okay? Did that answer your question? Okay. Did I lose anybody so far? Okay. Because I know this is a lot of information to take in, quite a bit to take in.
Well, sometimes your head will tingle.
Yes, yes. And what's really interesting about when I'm doing medium work is when they're really trying to get something right. And they're trying to give it to me, and I'm trying to get it. If I get it right, and it's something very important to me, I almost get like a little, yay, you got it right, and it feels like, woo, and it just tingles down my back. And if you can imagine running water kind of going down your back, this is exactly what it feels like. It's quite pleasant. It's not shocking or upsetting. And so sometimes I go, oh yeah, I think I got that one right. You know, and the other thing that I have found is that when the crossed over loved one is emitting strong emotion, I also will get it in a form of a bolus, okay? So sometimes it's like a yes! And I'm like, woo! Yep, that's right. You know, so they will also use energetic boluses to confirm. And it makes sense, because if this is a bolus and energy can come in here in a big wave, okay, it makes sense that if a crossed over loved one is using strong emotion, and emotion is energy, right? So if they're using strong emotion, I'm going to be getting a big energetic wave. It's more than likely not going to go through my skin. It's going to go through the back of my head, the mouth of God. Okay? See how that works? So our feelings are emotions. Our feelings are energy. Our thoughts are energy. Our faith is energy. Our God emotions and feelings are the most powerful on the planet. I call them the D batteries of energy. Okay? You'll see me, if you ever go out to eat with me, most of my friends know this, I will put my hands over my food and I'll say thank you, gratitude. Now, I know from the Bible and many religious views, we think of thank you in terms of that we have plenty to eat, okay? But I actually say thank you to the plants that are in front of me, because they carry life force energy. And the minute that I have given gratitude to that food, I have exponentially increased the life force energy of that food. It's a very different way of looking at it, isn't it? Definitely a different way of looking at it. Okay, so another piece about empaths that I just want to go back to, because I do want to put this on tape, because by far this is probably more questions are fielded in this arena than anything since I've been doing this work. I remember when I first came into these abilities, I had a spiritual experience. It was a series of visions. At which point I really thought that I was, a lot of you know this who have come to see me, I really thought I was going delusional. I had a psychotherapy background, and I knew that when people saw things, and especially in religious in nature, that's often how you start the delusional cycle. You know, and I thought, okay, I'm ready for the hospital. And what had happened was I literally got downloaded, what I call downloaded, with energy, so much so that I was really reclusing a little bit when this first happened. I could not tolerate anything on my skin with the exception of the colors of blue and white. I didn't even understand that. I didn't understand frequency. I didn't understand vibration. It really scared me. And I now know that sometimes you can vibrate so high that lower frequencies feel uncomfortable. And so because I had been downloaded with such information, that my whole body and my whole energetic body was like vibrating high, and I could not tolerate even certain colors on my skin. I also blew computers. My husband at the time just wouldn't let me touch his computers, and I didn't blame him. I went through quite a few of them. Every electrical thing that I touched practically was breaking. So it was very difficult for me because at the time I really didn't understand this, and I was afraid. And so since then, the very first thing that happened to me, I was directed through another vision to visit a Native American elder who I have very much gratitude towards, because without this person, I would not have made it, because I really did think I was going crazy. And he taught me to ground into the Mother Earth energy, because what happens is when you do work in the heart chakra above, I'm up here so often that I have to ground down here to be able to live my life and be in the real world. I'm sure you've seen many people who kind of stay up here a lot. And I would have to say, please go outside, put your bare feet on the ground, so you can get that energy moving. So I know what it's like to be afraid of these energies coming in, and so I really do believe that if I can just teach people that you can move any energy around you if you just know where it is and what it does, just with your thoughts, your vision, your feelings, your emotions, your belief. Okay, scientists are proving this. Okay, so one thing I'd like to say about the chakras is that you have control of them. You get to decide whether you want to turn your radio on or turn your radio off. Okay, now I want to also say a lot of times I will teach close the chakras, but what I'd like to really talk to you about is closing the door on the chakra. Okay, meaning that you don't want to close down the chakra, because you're an energetic being. Okay, but you do want to cover it. Okay, oftentimes I'll say put an elevator door on it, or shut it this way, or in the Hindu traditions they often will use a lotus petal that just kind of folds up over the chakra. Okay, the other thing is that, remember when I said that the energy is all around you? Okay, if they're going to fuel rocket ships with the energy around us, why can't we use that energy for our bodies? Okay, so what I do is I ask everybody to take a deep breath in. I want them to visualize their chakras, visualize the color, and I want them to think, feel, and know and believe that they're closing their chakra, at which point you put a little door on the front of it. And so for empaths, it's particularly important that they really regulate what I call the power chakra, which is a tummy chakra, as well as the sacral chakra, okay? Because those two are the high feeling states, or feeling emotions, or emotions that are tied to the chakras. That's what I'm spitting out there. And so empaths have to learn their equipment, and they've got to know where the energy is coming in, okay? The other thing that I often teach is that, which, the kahunas from Hawaii, the Kiros will talk about this as well, is the fact that the power chakra is the most permeable chakra that we have in our body. The mystic Juan de la Prado from Peru, I got a chance to train with him. He is the most amazing man. He's like 80 years old. I hope I'm not aging him too much, but I think he's about there. And he laughs and has a twinkle in his eye. The mystics, the true mystics, never say they're mystics, and they're often very funny and very down to earth. And that's really a sign of sometimes people who are very, very wise. But he taught us that the power chakra literally is so permeable that we can actually, with our thought, intention, belief, move it out from our bodies and surround things. Okay, we can actually move it out. Okay, if you can imagine, remember the monkeys at the zoo that have that little bubble that goes, okay? Well, actually the power chakra is just like that. We can extend it out. And we do this when we want to make sure that someone feels our power, okay? When we are actually wanting to feel a little bit about someone else and who they are, okay? Because we get a feeling state. Is this person a good person, not a good person? Is there something, should I be in this business situation with this person or not? And I always make this joke about being in the elevator, because we are energetic bodies regardless of whether or not we are consciously aware of that. And so what is happening is the subconscious mind is doing it anyway. So when you walk into an elevator, believe it or not, there's a lot of bubbles going on in that elevator. And people, but can you imagine what you can do with it if you were consciously aware of it? I am a hard sell. I have to say, it's like, show me the money, where's the beef? You know, despite the fact that I do what I do, I'm the most skeptical person you'll meet, even though I do what I do. And so I remember standing up in front of this this mystic, and I was really skeptical. My guides and my helpers had told me, I have to go to Hawaii. I've got to do this training. I'm going, I got to do what? You know, I mean, I had little kids. I'm going where? You know? And so, and come to find out, I had no idea really who he was before I got there. I really didn't. I bought my ticket and went. And I didn't even do the research. And so I remember standing up in front of him, and he was doing this traditional ceremony that they do. They have many of them to exchange energies in the body. And I was going, well, you know, at this point I was feeling energy, so I said, I'm going to feel how powerful he is. I want to know how powerful he is. My intention, and it was strong. Boy, did I really make a mistake with that intention, because a lot of times I laugh at this. Be careful what you judge, because you become it. So I used to laugh at these people that would stand up and in front of religious people and be very dramatic, and they'll go, you are healed, you know, and then fall, and they'll become very histrionic. And I do believe that those kinds of things do happen, but sometimes they don't. And so he was doing, I was the first one up there. And he did this ceremony, and he laid his mesa on my head. And this is a spiritual package that's hard to go into in an hour. But nevertheless, it's material that they use, that they put things in there that mean something to them. The energy only comes from the person, not the things necessarily. It's a meaning, it's the emotional attachment. So, but it packs a punch. So they carry this in a mess, and I did not bring one tonight. Usually I do. And so what he did is he set it on top of my head, and no sooner that he set it on top of my head, I had a power source in my body that just made me go, whoa! And here's this 80-year-old man catching me going, Rhonda, are you doing okay? It was just hysterical. You know, it was just hysterical. It's like, And at that moment, I want to share something with you that I'll never forget. And that is, as I went back to my seat, I left my body. And I flew out into space, almost like a baseball going. And there was a point at which I stopped. And all I can tell you is that I saw energy for what it was. We say there's no sound in space. That's not true. Okay? I heard everything in harmonics. Everything had a sound to it. Everything had a color. When I looked back at planet Earth, I heard an orchestra. And I saw ribbons of color move throughout the planet Earth. It was the most amazing thing I've ever seen. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I don't know how long I was there. It seemed like a second to me, not very long. And all of a sudden I was thrown back into my body. And at that point there were 20 initiates, and they had all gone through their ceremony. I don't know where time had flown. The other problem with this is that I had never been outside of my body in that manner, and I couldn't walk. My body felt very heavy. And I was over in the corner, and I was kind of hidden, and everybody started falling out for lunch. And they forgot me, and I was going, oh my gosh, I can't get up. And so someone came back, and they actually said, Rhonda, I got a feeling you were back here. And I got my legs, finally. I was slowly walking to lunch, and everybody was around this, in this little lunchroom where Juan was, and he was sitting by a table by himself. Have you ever been in a room where you see such a powerful person, you don't think that you deserve to sit by them? Okay, I saw this going on. Of course, that was the only chair was right in front of Juan. I'm going, oh goodness, because I felt the same way. I was like, I don't want to sit by him. You know, so anyway, I did sit by him, and he looked at me and goes, you pushed the envelope today, didn't you, Rhonda? He goes, did you see the vision? And I said, yes, I did. He said, tell me. And I told him. And he said, yes, I saw it too once in my initiation. I never saw it again. Powerful. So everything, I have seen that everything is full of sound, color, frequency. I know it to be true. I know it to be true. And for us to come to the understanding that we are such powerful beings that can manipulate any energy around us, and to understand how that energy operates is very important. Very important. I'm sorry?
I was just saying, yeah, it is important, because you can be stuck forever. You don't know how to manipulate the energy around you. You don't even know what it is.
Yes. Well, I do believe that people do know. I think higher selves, like we're only conscious of about 20% of our thoughts. 80% are in our subconscious minds. meaning that there is a lot of activity that we are not consciously aware of. So our energy beings and our higher selves are sometimes aware of our lessons that we're here to learn and things that we're here to do on this planet. But that doesn't mean our conscious self is aware of it. But can you imagine what we could do if our conscious self becomes aware of it as well? And the other problem with this is that because so many of our thoughts operate in the subconscious mind, well then that is a lot of energy we're not in control of in that mental body, isn't it? That means that consciously we only have 20% control of that emotional body. Okay, so how do we address that? Any thoughts?
Being quiet.
Yes.
Meditation, is that it?
Yes, there's many ways to do it, but being quiet, going inward. Because what happens is when you are able to do this, you're able to access what we call a part of your higher self or your oversoul. And that this is, I always say, don't, I have a lot of students say, don't follow me, I'll teach you, but you're your own guru, okay? But you have a higher self that is so all-knowing that if you get connected to it and you have a question about things that are going on, these patterns in your life, then you can ask about those patterns, because these patterns in your life are based upon subconscious material and thought processes that you're not aware of that were instilled during childhood. And sometimes I have even found that not only are we carrying our own energy, but oftentimes we are carrying other people's energy. That's something. That is something. How I discovered that was I actually was in a retreat in Maryville in Arizona, and I'm a post-traumatic stress specialist. I do a lot of trauma in my practice, and there was a person on the list that said, I do this energy work and I clear post-traumatic stress. This was at a time where I didn't really understand energy, and I went, let's see what you got. So I booked a little session with this person, and it was the first time I was ever introduced to energy. It blew me away, okay? And what he was able to show me was that I was literally carrying depression from my mother in my field, and I cannot tell you the visions and the thoughts that as part of this process, this is called holographic memory resolution. The person who did this is called Brent, his name is Brent Baum. And I'm trained in it. It's a wonderful energy psychology technique. But he was able to show me very clearly that I was holding on depression for my mother. I was around her a lot. She was very depressed. I literally took that on. Now that makes sense, because when you think about it, you're mostly water and energy, right? You're 75% plus water. Okay. We also know that you're an energetic body. What does water and electricity do? It's a conduit, isn't it? Okay. So we know that when waves move together, they begin to actually acclimate together, okay? And so if I'm around you enough, I'm going to share my energy with you, and you're going to share your energy with me, okay? We know that when waves of energy actually move together, they share information. This is a scientific principle. We don't even have to apply it to energy necessarily as we are talking about it. It's just a scientific known fact, okay? Now, so we also have to be aware of sometimes, we have to ask ourselves a question. I'm feeling really, really depressed today, or I'm feeling really agitated. Is this my energy, or is this someone else's? Okay. Now the other thing, how do we prevent from taking on other people's energy? First of all, you got to believe that you move energy. You got to see the energy that you're moving, right? You got to visualize it. Okay, you got to feel it, and what you need to do is you need to actually sit down and say, okay, well, if all this energy around us is malleable, and we can actually make it coalesce, what if I want to put a little energy field around my body, okay? And what if I visualize that, see it, believe it, okay? And then I take in my breath and I visualize it. I'm actually putting a little energy ring around my body, and my intention with that is anything of a lower vibration that is not for my highest good may not enter here. Okay? You can do it. I'm amazed at the money, that goes out, a multi-billion-dollar industry of people who are relying on other people to clear their energy and do all these things. And I remember one of the first times I ever visited a psychic, she told me that I had a terrible chakra, and to the tune of $6,000, she'd be glad to clear it for me. Okay. And by the way, she was very good. She knew a lot of things about me. I would like to instruct you that just because people have ability doesn't necessarily mean that they're operating in the light. Okay. But now what I do is I teach people, you can clear that. You know, I do house clearings because what I do is I go in, I can read energy from the land anywhere. I can be sitting in my office chair and read for a piece of property in Hawaii. It doesn't make a difference because there is no space-time dimension as we understand it, okay? In fact, what happens is that even if I'm in the here and now, that I can actually access information just by my intention, because I'm thinking I want the information, that's my intention. So what it can do is it can also travel to me in the form of what's called photon waves or even tachyon waves in a beam of light, and actually go into my body, and I just read the land, okay? I kind of got off track. I'm not quite sure where I was going with that. Totally forgot where I was going with that.
We need to have a few questions.
Okay.
I really don't want to interrupt you
And let
because
me just,
it's
can I say
too
one
good
more
the way it
thing?
is.
One more
Yeah.
thing that I want to leave y'all with though, one more thing. When I was talking about the subconscious mind and having these issues that come from childhood, once you become aware of where those thoughts got created, you can actually go into meditation in space and silence and go back inside your head. Go back to that place and send love, forgiveness, compassion, and it will unhook your energy. You have the ability to do that. Okay? And here's another thing. You think that you're just simply creating a little vision in your head? Because there is no time-space dimension, you're actually doing that. Because everything that is and ever will be is actually happening simultaneously. I know that's very hard for people to believe. So if you want to control your mental body and get your energies running, you need to be aware of what your subconscious thoughts are, and then realize that you have to trace them back, and then you have to release through the God energies of the heart. Okay? All right, I'll take questions.
Go ahead. Any questions?
The holographic memory?
Holographic memory
Holographic.
resolution.
Can you say
Yes.
a little bit more about that?
Believe it or not, Brent Baum was High Archdiocese Pope, not Pope, but he was up in the Catholic Church. He actually Cardinal, and he was released from his duties because he started talking about energy in and around his body. And so he believed that he was given this information through God and wanted to talk to people about it. And so he created this technique. And when you go to see him, he's a very intellectual man, and he doesn't talk about energy or any of that. It goes into completely scientific principles because he's talking to nurses and psychologists. And at the time, I didn't understand this either. But now I can say, oh, he's talking about energy waves, and he's talking about moving the energy. So holographic memory resolution is really a way of being able to find out what it is that's bothering you in the body. For example, every single memory has a cellular level component in the body. So if you come in and you say, I have migraine headaches, I don't know what they are, I'm able to use this technique, and I'm able to go exactly back to the memory that stored the actual problem that caused the migraine headaches. Okay, so it's a visualization process and the use of color and an ability to, what I call, go back in the timeline. Okay, and it's very effective, very effective. I can, I call it emotional freedom technique on steroids. And I don't know of anybody here in the city right now that does it. I hope more people do. I know EFT has really become known around the world, that's out there, but holographic memory resolution is a very powerful technique that I would recommend. And again, the person who did this was Brent Baum. Any other questions?
Want to tell the viewers a little bit about this book that you're doing?
Yes,
that you're
well,
writing?
okay, I'm actually in the midst, I've got 2 books, but I'm focusing on this one first, and it really is called Energetic Management. I'm trying to teach the world about not to be afraid of the energy in and around our bodies, and that we really are in control. So a little bit of this lecture is going to go into my book. I've talked a little bit about it, but I want people to understand that each and every person is a powerful, powerful being that can maneuver the energy in and around your body and even around the universe, and it's hard to believe that sometimes we have all these experiences in the physical body that we forget how powerful we are. And I will say to you this, that in my life path readings, I have the ability to be able to speak to guides. And guides are in the subtle energy worlds. There's many of them, and they're dimensions, and they're separated by energy frequency. And sometimes when the guides will come in and they will talk to me about why you are here on this planet, what is the purpose for that. And one of the things that I've been told is that we come here in order to learn the opposite of God. Whatever God means to you, higher power, what have you. But when we're out of the physical body, we return to a sense of all loving, all connectedness. And there's all healing. There's no physical ailments. It is perfect, okay? But if we operate in that world all the time and we don't know the difference, then we don't know. Like I use this example all the time. That light is on, but if that light stayed on all the time, we wouldn't know. We just say, that's light. It just gives us light. But the minute that we're immersed in darkness, we realize how powerful that light was.
And appreciate it.
Yes, and so what happens is we move in to the human form in order to take on certain lessons to learn the opposite of God so that we can have what? More gratitude. What does gratitude do? It's energy. So we come here to learn this in order to give more energy back to God. It's a very fascinating way of looking at it. And we also choose our lessons.
You have a gallery. You have a gallery this evening at 7
Yes.
o'clock.
Yes, I do.
Tell the viewers what happens in the galleries.
Well, a gallery is where I'm standing in front of an audience and I speak to those in heaven. And what happens at that point is, first of all, what I do is I make everybody sing songs at the very beginning of my gallery. And the reason, and I explain that because it's like what people don't understand is that each of you are energetic beings, and I need the energy coming into the room because they're moving down from a higher frequency to a lower frequency in order to communicate to me. And I'm trying to rev up the energy in my body, and I need the energy in the room. So when you sing, you actually are emitting energy into the room. And so I do usually 3 to 4 rounds of You Are My Sunshine. Okay? And the other thing I ask for people to do is I ask for people to sit there and just send me love, or send love to the people who are getting read for. Because remember, it's energy. It's a God energy. So I ask people not to sit there and go, oh, let me talk to my grandmother, let me talk to my, instead be open and simply give love from your heart for whatever is happening in the room. Okay? Because it's an energy thing. Okay? At which point what happens is there is a gatekeeper. Every medium has a team of helpers. I think I mentioned that. And one of them is a gatekeeper. And what a gatekeeper does is a gatekeeper gets to regulate the energy streams coming in. And usually there's a whole bunch of loved ones that want to come through. But I can't have everybody on the telephone line at all at one time. Okay? And so the gatekeeper actually regulates the energy. But the team of helpers on the other side are regulating a lot of energy. Okay, because what they're doing is they're trying to regulate the energy moving from our crossed over loved ones, bring it into the room, and bring it into me, the medium, in a way that I can actually interpret it and regulate it. Okay, so we actually even have scientists, believe it or not, and scientists are people on the other side who actually regulate the chemicals. Like for example, ectoplasm is a type of life force energy that's emitted from the body. And people who exude ectoplasm can do a very high form of mediumship called physical mediumship. And this is where they're actually able to bring a physical imprint, either a face or a body, into the room through the ectoplasm. Okay, it's almost like Play-Doh in the air. It can exude from just about any part of the body, but we have scientists over there actually regulating and making sure that there's no harm that comes to the medium as that kind of high energy moves in and then pulls out ectoplasm of our physical body. It's really, but it's science. It's absolutely science. So the more that I can explain this to people and take the fear out of it, perhaps we can be a little bit more open, because as a psychotherapist, I've seen the difference in traditional grief, which takes months, and someone who gets a reading of heaven and they're at peace instantaneously.
Yes.
And if I can just educate people about this and just take the fear out of it, if they can understand that it's not woo-woo, there is a science to it. And yes, the body exists beyond, the soul exists beyond the body. One of the first things I do when I stand up in my galleries is I say I'm here because, number one, there is a God. Number two, the body exists, outside, the soul exists outside the body. And number three, yes, there is a heaven. and so the point of this is to instill faith. To give hope. People who can do high mediumship, or we contracted at some point at a soul level to come here and do just that. We're here to instill faith in people. that's our job. That's our job.
One of our guests here today asked if departed animals also try to communicate.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And I was very shocked at that. I kind of learned backwards. I came into all my abilities and then had to learn the book sense to make sense of what it is was happening to me. So that never came up in my training. So I remember standing in front of 12 people doing a small home gallery, and all of a sudden I said, I think I'm talking to a dog. And I was talking to a dog. And they came in just as, I could not tell the difference between a human being on the soul level with personality, emotions, feelings. The only difference that I could see is that I was looking at a picture of a dog. And so they are souls. I'm sorry?
Even plants are sentient beings.
Yes, and that is...
Joseph Campbell said this 40 years ago.
Yes, and that is my
Where were
teaching.
you?
Yes.
You're too young.
Yes. I mean, I know I had just an hour, and I do so many lectures. I was trying to all fit it in, but fit as much in as I could. But the point that you just made is an accurate one. What the shamans and the Native American medicine and the Kiros teach us is that everything is energy and everything has a conscious. You know, everything does. You know, this consciousness, thank you. Like this table comes from a tree, but it has an energetic imprint of the tree, and the tree has a soul. See how that works? So everything has an energy imprint.
Not a soul. It has an energy depending on the level.
Yes.
Not
yes.
So you wouldn't call it a soul. You would call it a
well,
certain
trees I
level
would.
of energy.
Trees I would. Trees are our grandfathers and grandmothers. They were here way before us as our stones. You know, a lot of people would say that stones are just inanimate, that they have a consciousness, and you can speak to stones. You know, and some of the Kiros they don't do their medicine without the stones, because stones give us energy. They have purposes here. They're gifting to us on so many ways. It's just unbelievable what stones actually do.
They're depositories.
Yes, and I would love to talk to you, wise. Okay, so this comes from India, right? Oh, yes, I know it is. This is, yes, and it just emits energy. Like you can actually feel a stone. Remember, you have a portal in your hand. Okay, you can feel the energy that comes from this. You can feel this. It's called psychometry, and when you go to medium or intuitive classes, and you can feel the energy imprint from anything, and you can get images and feelings from just an energy imprint. But stones carry a consciousness, okay? And
This one, if you look, you can see the
An
natural
eye.
yin and yang. The
Oh.
brown spot in the gray spot in the
Yes.
brown.
Isn't that amazing? So I actually do a stone class where I get people to close their eyes, and I want them to feel and see if they can speak to the stones and tell me where they think it comes from and what color it is before they even look at the stone. What kind of energy does it vibrate to? The other thing is everything is mathematical. Everything is geometry, sacred geometry, so that everything carries a certain number based upon its frequency. And this is why stones can heal, because if you think of the fact that every frequency carries a number, and say, for example, you have an imbalance in your body, and I, as a clairvoyant, can see that imbalance, which means it's a color distortion. And I'm just giving you an example. I'm not actually seeing anything. In case you're wondering. You know, and then say, for example, that carries a certain mathematical equation to it, that frequency does. Then, and this carries a certain frequency to it. Then what happens is you're basically doing healing through algebra. Okay? Except we're doing it through vibrational frequencies. Okay, so this is, and the indigenous people knew this for years. They attached spirituality to it because they learned that everything, when you give it gratitude, increases the power. And so one thing about the nature beings, and you know, we talk about the subtle energy all around us, we have worlds within our worlds that we cannot see. And so, and they carry their own laws, just like we have our own laws, they carry their own laws. For example, the nature beings, you know, they have a whole hierarchical order, you know, of beings in nature. And I remember thinking, oh no, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. You know, I was like, first of all, they made me think I was crazy. And then I started seeing things in people's bodies. And then I started speaking to dead people. And then the day that they gave me fairies and actually showed me fairies, I said, really? They're real too? Oh my goodness. You know, it was like, so slowly they kind of moved into gave me information slowly, thank goodness. But fairies exist. Gnomes exist. These are part of the nature beings of our planet. And they carry their own energies, and it's just amazing. And the Native American medicine people knew this. And I think the woman at the back of the room had talked about plants having energy as well, and you can speak to them. I spent time on a reservation in Montana, and we were told not to write anything down, because what she wanted to teach us was that you don't go by what's on a paper, you ask the plant. The people who are truly the medicine plant people are the ones that can communicate with the plant, and the plant will tell you what its uses are. But only if you give it gratitude, because the other thing is in the, speaking of the laws, we have universal laws, but the plant world has, the nature world has their laws, and we're taught the law of reciprocity, which means that nature does not have to help you at all unless you're willing to give something back. This is why Native American medicines of men and women will often carry tobacco as a sacred herb. They take a stone from the land, they put a little tobacco in its place. Now, I'm not just saying that tobacco is the only way to do it. I do believe it's just giving back. If you want to sing a song, you can. If you want to water the tree, you can. But Native American medicine, you know, they often will use tobacco. But you have to operate in their law of reciprocity. Okay? Yes?
I'm just curious on how you are able to turn it on or turn it off, or for instance, say departed loved ones, do they come to you sometimes even before a gallery setting, or?
No, they don't, because I won't let them. You know, I need my space at home. I have young children, and I really can't be on all the time. You know, I think Lisa Williams, she's a very famous psychic medium. I can't remember if she takes her hat off or puts it on, but that she uses a symbol of a hat to let them know I'm on or off in terms of energy.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
We got a minute. I want to thank our viewers for being with us on the Core Concepts lectures. We have Susanna Furr will be with us next week, and I'm James Renford Powell, and this is Core Concepts. Thank you. Yeah, we'll make sure to add all your information.
My intention. And the other thing is remember the little ring that I asked you to put around your body? You can put a shield in, you can be Star Trek, imagine anything you want. You know, it's the fact that you believe it, see it, and you intention it properly. Okay? Then you fuel it. So what I do also is I'm gonna keep my chakras open. So I have to put my little covers on them, and so if I'm completely covered and shielded, I won't. And they can follow me around the house, but I'm not going to see them or feel them until I'm ready to get on stage. You know, because I've got a little shield around me. Does that make sense?
I use that. You know those little things that they've got protectors on the electrical plugs, and you pull it over to put it in, or you let it slide back.
Yes.
I've used that in visualization for like the Kundalini energy. So
exactly.
Let your little flip thing slide back.
And then another thing that I was taught from Robert Brown, who is a very good teacher in mediumship. He does a Hawaiian medium boot camp every year. He said to just envision your guides and helpers literally put in a cloak around you. So sometimes I will open up my chakras and go in meditation. That in some of my lectures as well. But certainly just breathing is one of them, just slowing your breath down. Also moving, I go outside, I ground to Mother Earth, I give tobacco to the ground before I even go into gallery, because my primary guide is a Native American medicine woman named Maida. And so the Indian, Native American Indian traditions are very strong for me, and I try to honor her in that way. You know, but she's the one that pulls up the little body charts when I'm doing readings, and I'll get a body chart, looks like a little anatomical body chart, and then I see the floating of the colors, and then I see the discoloration, and then they zero in, and then I hear, see, and feel that it's either tumor or anger or, you know, and then what she does is, she actually is very good with her herbs, but I cannot prescribe. So I always have to do that for entertainment purposes only, seeing that we're still on film. You know, but she's, you know, I try not to learn my herbs really, because I want to make sure that it comes from Maida and not me. And she's come up with some very interesting things that really surprise me. And I go to look them up on the computer. It's like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. You know, but that's Maida. That's not me. So, any other questions? EMDR.
Okay, and when you talked about
Yes.
holographic, because how they described it was almost kind of sounded like it was. So
Yes.
then they were like, had you tried that or experienced it? Because you may want to try that versus the traditional because you feel you weren't getting anywhere. And I was just like, well,
Right.
how does that work? And kind of when you were talking about that.
Yes, that's a very good question. I'm also trained in EMDR. I do feel like those who are open to holographic memory resolution, it's faster and quicker. And what I have found is that it doesn't cause abreactive states. And abreactive states is where you actually re-traumatize a client or a patient as a result of viewing the actual scene. And even though they account for it in EMDR, I have found that some people do still have a high abreactive state, whereas with holographic memory resolution, what's really happening there is your higher self is actually moving in and doing some pretty powerful work. You know, that's really what's going on. Brent Bond will explain it better.
And you've got too much, you've got to come back again.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
Will you
EMDR is
commit
very
to that?
effective. It is very effective. And one of the ways that they are doing that is they're moving from a left to right brain, that we do know that actually cuts off synapse in the brain. But the other thing is they're using a timeline technique. Because what they're doing is they're asking you to visualize the trauma, go back in and change it. So even then they're using a little bit of those principles. They just don't call it that.
Right.
Okay? All right. Well, thank you so much,
So
guys.
you could do,
Thank you.
You could do another one or two of these things. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.